Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a sew along and we are going to be making the Camille, oh my god, I thought my camera was falling over. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Becca and this is my sewing channel, my craft channel, DIY, vlog channel, all of the things. And today we are doing a sew along of the Camille top. And this one is pretty exciting because I was feeling like summer makes were almost done. And then I saw this. I felt like I just needed more tops, cute blouses and things like that. And this is definitely not one that I could wear in winter. So it doesn't make sense to make it in winter. I'm gonna make it at the end of summer. It is the end of August that I'm currently making it. I think you're gonna see this more in September, but I still wanted to do it. So we've got a few different pieces to this pattern, which I've already cut out. This fabric is a thrifted tablecloth, which I feel was so lucky. It has just like the most beautiful avocado green color gingham, and it has a little bit of like a towel texture on the back, which is kind of weird, but you know, whatever, that's what happens when you use like non-traditional sewing fabric. So we've got the straps because it is a top that is kind of open in the center, and then it has little straps to tie it to close it off. So I thought that would be cute. Then we've got, oh, these are facing pieces. So it's not a lined garment, which is nice because this fabric is a bit thicker. So you are going to be using a facing to close off like the front area right here. We have two mirrored front bodice pieces, the back bodice piece, and then back facing, and two big old sleeves, which is the theme of this summer. I feel like everything I've made lately has big sleeves and I love it. I used to be really afraid of sleeves, and I'm so glad that I've gotten over that because they're really not that hard and they just add so much pizzazz. Looking at the instructions, the first thing that it says is to mark on the sleeves 5 centimeters up from the bottom something. Let's look at it and just double check. Chalk a line 5 centimeters from the unfinished sleeve hem as a shirring guideline. Okay, so this sleeve has like a shirred piece, which like I could shear it, but I don't really like shearing, to be honest. I think I'm just gonna do an elastic channel. I feel like that would be easier for me. To ensure complete accuracy of the markings, do that first. So what I'm gonna do, kind of fold up where the hem would be. I'm actually just gonna, I'm not gonna sew the rolled hem, but I am just gonna pin it so that I know, again, where it's going to be, and then I can mark where I want the elastic channel to be. The next step for us, and I am literally so embarrassed by how gross my ironing board is. I really need to make a new cover for it. It's really bad. Don't judge me. We are going to work on the straps. Okay, so in the picture, this looks like this, oh, I guess it's like a zoomed in version, but the strap looks so much wider than it actually is, but this is probably just like a zoomed in version. It threw me off at the beginning if you're looking at the instructions. I was like, what strap is that thick? Anyway, I have all of these cut, and when I'm actually cutting something as like thin as these, like bias tape is usually this thin, I have a hard time making it straight. And so what I did this time is I just traced out the pattern piece with my water soluble marker, and it was so much straighter and so much easier to cut. So if you are ever doing bias tape, I know that like it's a really long thing to trace. Maybe you could put like a clear ruler over it while you trace, and then trace along the ruler. I don't know, I'm just saying that it was a lot easier to cut it out when it was traced and not like with a pattern piece, like cutting it with the pattern piece on it. So we just need to fold in the top a little bit. It says 5 centimeters. This pattern is a UK pattern, so it's all centimeters, which like isn't too big of a deal, but my brain operates in inches. So I'll admit it has been a little confusing. Okay, so what it says is to fold it in half, wrong sides together, so right side out, and then you open it up, fold it in to that middle crease, and press it again. And then do the same thing for the other side. Once that is all flat, we're going to fold the entire thing in half, and we are left with a cute little strap that has no raw edges besides the end here, but that's gonna go inside of the facing, so it doesn't need to be closed off. Repeat that for all 4 of the straps, and then top stitch along the edge to keep that all in place and together. Okay, so we've finished the straps. Now we are going to assemble the bodice. So with right sides together, pin the front and the back shoulders together and then zigzag it. So we've got the back bodice piece, which I'm going to put right side up, wrong side down. And then my 2, this is not the piece I need. Right, here we are. My 2 front pieces, I'm going to place them on top, right side down. Wrong side up. That was confusing. Right sides together. So as you can see, laid it down, and now I just pin at the shoulder seams and sew and then zigzag. So since I'm like pinning, I'm gonna take my 3 bodice pieces and I'm going to pin those together. I've angled you down because this could potentially be confusing because I just got a little bit confused. This is the photo from the instructions. So I believe that I have this upside down. Okay, there we go. This gets pinned right here. This gets pinned right here. And there you go. Okay, so we're gonna sew all of that together. These pieces have all been sewn up and closed off. And I believe now we're going to sew them to each other, if I had to guess. Yes, okay, so we're going to pin the ties so that we can sandwich them between the facing. So we're going to, well, I suppose we could do a sort of fit check to see how it's looking, but I don't know how good of a fit check it's actually gonna be. Yeah, it's looking as it should, I think. Okay, so we're gonna grab one of those ties, and when I was cutting out the fabric, the pattern had little notches where I marked with my water erasable pen, and those are the spots where you need to put the straps. So we're going to put the straps raw side here, the finished side on the outside, but we're going to pin down the raw side, and I'm going to pin right where that marking is. There's 2 marks. And then we just want to stitch these in place right along the edge so that they don't move. This is coming together really quickly, by the way. I think it's only been like 30 minutes since I started. Like, this is really fast. And because it has a facing, it's going to be so clean in the end. Like, the edges are gonna look so clean. So we're gonna line up where we sewed together. There's the curved part of the back. We're gonna line up this seam with the shoulder seam. I like to do that first, just to make sure that everything is going to line up, and then I just push the seam allowances to opposite sides to reduce bulk. I'm gonna come over and do the same thing over here. Line that up, push the seam allowances, and pin. And then just pin your heart away the rest of the way. It's all pinned, and I'm going to sew it. What I am thinking about now is I don't remember seeing in the instructions to do any sort of like hem on this facing, so I'm kind of interested to see how we finish off the facing. Actually, before I go too far, I'm gonna look into that. Oh, you understitch it. Okay, hold on. Make sure the loose ends of ties are not in the stitching area. Join seams together, understitch seam to facing. You could also tack down the facing at the shoulder seams to hold it in place. Yeah, there's nothing about like serging or like zigzagging the facing, so I'm probably just gonna zigzag this entire length of facing so that it doesn't unravel. I'm not super worried about the fabric unraveling because it's not one that would, but if you're making this out of like linen or something like that, I would definitely suggest doing something like serging or at least zigzagging the facing. The facing has been stitched on, and now I believe I have to understitch all of this so that it will stay put. But now it's time to connect the side seams, and I'm pretty excited because now it's gonna feel so much more put together. So we're gonna stitch this and then zigzag it, and then iron out the facing, and then it's time to start working on the sleeves. We are almost done, you guys. Very exciting. It is now time to tackle the sleeves, which I'm actually pretty thankful that I made this mark in advance because I already have the hem figured out. So I need to sew up the sleeves right sides together on the arm part. So you're gonna take your sleeve piece, you're gonna fold it in half, stitch up this side, and then stitch the hem around. After much arguing with my machine here, we have the hem of the sleeves done. For some reason, my machine tension was all out of whack and it took me a really long time to complete these sleeves, which is not fun. So I think what I'm gonna do now is sew the channels. And what I'm gonna do for the channel, I just marked one line because the pattern calls for shirring, and like I said earlier, I don't want to shirr. So I'm just gonna take this skinny elastic and make a channel for it. So basically I'm just going to sew a little bit I'm just going to sew as if this elastic was going to be in the middle. Or you know what I could do? I've never done this before, but I might want to try it now actually. But you can actually directly sew on your elastic with a zigzag if you like. I think if you stretch it, yeah, I think if you stretch it, you can do that. So you know what, we're gonna try that because why not? So I'm gonna measure out, well, let's see where it's gonna land on my arm. We're gonna just try something, a little experiment. I'm gonna cut 2 elastics because I want them to be the same length if this works, and if not, I can just use them for the other method. I've never done this before, so I'm kind of just like spitballing what I could do. So I'm gonna make this elastic a loop, so I'm gonna just sew this together real quick. And from there, I'm going to put this seam onto the seam. But I'm gonna put the seam part on the inside so that it's not rubbing against my skin, because I can imagine that's gonna be really annoying after a while. I'm gonna first pin that there, and I feel like I should have put the markings on the inside of the sleeves for this method, but if you decide to do your elastic like this, you know now. So basically what we do is we just stretch the elastic as we're sewing. So you pull on it so that it will eventually be, as you're going around, it'll eventually be the size of your sleeve, and then it scrunches your sleeve in. So again, I've never done this before, but I'm imagining that this is how it's done. So I'm gonna try it out and you can see how it goes. It is starting to scrunch up, as you can see. So it's basically just pull, sew, pull, sew. I think that it worked, you guys. That was really easy. I think the only downside is that you can very clearly see the elastic on the inside, like it's not super pretty. But now that I think about it, I wouldn't have been able to do the elastic channel like I was imagining, because this isn't a double layer. And so I would have had to do it this way or do the shirring. So yeah, if you're not gonna do the shirring, you have to do it this way. And it's cute. It's not like super tight by any means, but it sits and it scrunches in the sleeves. So hopefully that will look okay long term. I'm gonna look at it in the mirror actually, since I've never done this. Okay, yeah, I don't hate it by any means. It's definitely looser than it would be if I did like an elastic channel or something, but I really don't think I mind because this shirt is not supposed to be like a really tight fitted shirt anyway. So I'm gonna repeat that exact same process on the other sleeve, and then we need to do a channel of gathering stitches on the top of the shoulder, and then we are almost done. I'm just snipping away all of these extra threads while I'm in this area before I forget. The pattern also included markings for where to start and stop your gathering. So we've got a mark right here. Is that on the, yeah, that's on the outside. And then another one over here. So I'm just gonna do a single row of gathering stitches there and then do the same thing for the other sleeve. Usually with sleeves, I'll do a single row of gathering because it's usually not very long, but if it's something like a skirt, I'll be more likely to do 2 rows just because there's a lot more room for things to break. And I find 2 rows of gathering stitches just a little bit more secure. Okay, friends, we've got both sleeves done up to the point that, you know, I can add them on. I haven't completely gathered the stitches yet because I don't know how big they need to be for the armhole. So I'm laying my bodice back down. I'll move the camera down so you can see how I'm gonna do this, because adding sleeves on has always used to stress me out a lot, as I said earlier, but it's not so bad. So what we do, really like the trouble with sleeves is just figuring out what side goes on what side, because there's a front and a back of a sleeve, and like I always mess it up, but I'm assuming that this side that's a lot straighter, there's a side that's like a little bit less curvy. I think that's gonna be the back. How do I fit this in? I always mess this up. Right sides together, wrong sides together. Let's see what the pattern says. Right sides together, pin sleeve to armhole. Okay, so let's put this inside out then. So we've got the right side here, straight side going to the back. I'm gonna slide this inside. And what I do is I will, again, like I did with the shoulder seam and the facing, I'm going to make sure that these seams right here are gonna line up. The armpit seam on the shirt and the sleeve. And now we know how small this sleeve needs to be gathered to so that it can fit into here. And I'm sure that this all looks like kind of difficult to differentiate. All the colors kind of blend together and it all looks the same. But I usually like to fit the sleeve in, and then I will start to gather the little section until it fits. And like this is like maxed out on the gathering, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna be something like this. But I'm just gonna hold that while I kind of assess. I'm just gonna start pinning and then see where I end up. All good to go. It's a little bit less than fully maxed out on the gathers, so I'm glad that I did that before I completely tied that off. But what I do in this sort of situation, and the instructions might say this, but I'm just gonna stitch over just the gathered section real quick just to keep it in place, because that might shift around and I really don't want the gathers to become uneven. Actually, I guess since I'm here, I could just stitch around the entire sleeve. That would probably also make sense. We're gonna do that. Okay, my friends, we have an almost completed shirt, and I'm realizing that I typically don't like facings because I find that they pop out all the time. So I don't think that the pattern calls for you to do this, but I'm actually gonna tack down this facing over the entire shirt. And I think because the pattern is so loud, it's not gonna be that noticeable. But yeah. This is the shirt, basically. It's kind of too big. Oh dear. I'm wearing like a really tight undershirt thing so that you can really see, or so that I can like show putting it on without exposing myself. Oh, and I think just in general, it just feels a little bit too oversized. Which is not a good realization or a good feeling. I think, yeah, it's just very loose. I'm thinking maybe if I take in the sides, that might help, but take in the sides and bring this whole thing in too. Oh no, that is not a good feeling to realize that the thing you just spent hours on is too big. I feel like it could use some darts, like dang. We're in a quite a situation here. Is it too big though? I don't know. It is too big because it's like coming off my shoulders. I feel like it's supposed to be like up here. Hold on, let me take this undershirt off. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. If I was to walk into a store and like try this on, I would undoubtedly be like, oh, let me just grab one size smaller. And then I would like it so much more. So I don't really know what to do. Like I would have to unpick everything probably just to make it a little bit smaller. I don't know. Maybe I could just take in the sides a little bit, but that doesn't take away from like this part feeling big. Like the shoulder part feels big too. I like the length though. And like I like the silhouette that we've created. It's very cute. I like it. It feels very me. Like this is definitely something that I would wear. But I do think that I need to take a moment to regroup and see what I want to do. I almost think like if there was a tie right here, that would feel even better. Like if I could have a tie right here, it would pull it in up here a little bit more. Maybe I could just change the position of the ties and then it would feel more secure, because I don't mind that it feels a little oversized, because knowing me, it's probably gonna shrink in the wash. My clothes always end up shrinking in the wash and it's not usually too big of a deal. So I feel like if this shrank just a little bit, it would be perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the tie, like, do you see there's this like curve right here? I'm gonna put the tie right there so that I can, and not like necessarily close it, but just have that be more secured up here. And I think that'll make me feel better. And maybe I'll pop it in the washer and the dryer, and I think that it'll tighten up. So I'm gonna make that fix right here and then come back, and then all we have to do after that is hem it and then we're done. So super exciting. I didn't put a label on it though. I need to pick out a label. I have a bunch of really cute labels that I recently got, so I'm pretty excited. But I don't think that this is like a lost cause. It just needs something here. Okay friends, it's been a moment since you've seen me, but my shirt is done. And I was actually about to stitch on the label, but then my needle broke, which is weird. That hasn't happened to me in a really long time. But anyway, this is the top and I really like it. I love gingham so much, and changing the position of the ties really does help. And I'm considering adding a third tie, but probably not. I'm probably just gonna leave the bottom open. Yeah, it doesn't need it. I just moved up the tie to this, like I mentioned like 5 times. But yeah, there it is. All finished, and again, I love it. I think it's so cute. So thank you so much for joining me for this little adventure sewing this top. I'm not going to be wearing it with a shirt underneath. I feel like I need to take that off so that you can really see the full effect. So yeah, there we go. There is the shirt. It looks really cute. I love these little sleeves. They're adorable. I haven't done sleeves like this before, as I've mentioned many times in this video. But I really love it. So thank you guys so much for watching. And if you'd like to check out this pattern, I will have it linked down below so that you can try it out. This was really easy. Like if I was to say on a scale of, you know, beginner, intermediate, easy, this is definitely a beginner pattern. I would say not the first thing you make, maybe like the 3rd or 4th. I don't know, unless you're super adventurous. The only thing that might be a little bit advanced would be the gathering on the shoulders right here. But other than that, it's all straight lines, basically, really gentle curves. So pretty easy if you're not, you know, too good with curves just yet. And you get to learn how to do a facing, which is a really great way to make your garments look more professional. I really love them. So anyway, yeah, thank you guys for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye.